Time now for Talking Campus, our weekly discussion with members of the College Fix editorial team. Today I'm joined by College Fix editor Jennifer Cabani for a conversation about mob politics on American campuses. Jennifer, for the entirety of my academic life, from high school to college to grad school to the professoriate, I have been warned by academics about the dangers of mob thinking, how it is the polar opposite of critical thinking, how it inevitably leads to violence, how it undermines the very core principles of education. But in every instance, the examples used to illustrate the absurdity of mob rule were always derived from conservative movements and conservative organizations. Today, it's as if our academics are stark blind to the destructive consequences of progressive student-driven mobs. What factors, in your opinion, drive this willful blindness?
Well, essentially, the left wants to control the campus debate, control the campus narrative. So they use bullying, aggressive tactics to shame other ideas, silence other ideas, shut them down, so that, unfortunately, there isn't a free exchange of ideas on campuses anymore. It's a control issue. They really want to silence the other side.
I think it's a wonderful point, and I actually call what these campus student groups, the word I've coined for them is MIBs, little mobs, right? Because they're really small groups of 15 or 20 kids who manage to completely shut down speakers, manage to completely transform the way administrators think. I call them MIBs because the larger mob that controls them is exactly what you just said. It's the faculty and the administration who are really seeing their cause advanced by allowing this to go on. Every now and then, as we've seen from these articles, sometimes the university professors, the faculty, and the administrators get pushed farther than they want. Talk a little bit about some of the wonderful articles the Fix has done. Talk about what's going on in places like Reed College, where you had a very small group of MIBs shut down a Western civilization course because it was dared to be Western Civ and not something else.
Yes, so in that particular instance, what we had was a university that had an excellent course on the foundations of Western civilization. And instead of telling these young people, hey, you don't come to college and tell us what to teach you. You come to college and we tell you what's important to learn, what's important to understand, including the underpinnings of Western civilization, Plato, Socrates, what have you. But instead, these students were like, oh, they're all white men. We don't want to learn from them. Change it. And so what did Reed do? It acquiesced. And it said, you know what? We're going to add some authors of color. We're going to add some different geographic areas such as New York and the Americas. So essentially the small group of whiny, allegedly oppressed students going to a 50,000 per year school got their way. Instead of the grown-ups telling the kids, hey, look, we're in charge. We know what's best for your education. That's why you came to us.
Well, that's really exactly it, isn't it? That in many ways, these kids are a Frankenstein's monster. They are created by the faculty themselves. They are generated by faculty outrage cliques to get angry about everything. It's kind of backfiring in the sense that it's getting mad at them now. The person who taught that course was a doctrinaire liberal. The school itself had made overtures to include, like you said, other non-Western voices in that course. The fact that you had a course devoted to Western culture at all was the problem. And there's no way around this. You think about what happened at Evergreen State College with that biology professor, a doctrinaire liberal himself, who was ordered off campus, told not to show up because your presence here was offensive against minority groups. This is really starting to backfire big time. Are we seeing any movement on America's campuses by administrators to rein in the left on these campus protests?
Not as often as I'd like, unfortunately. They definitely need to do a better job of being the grown-ups and saying to the students, we appreciate your concerns, but you're paying us to help you gain the skills you need to have a productive career. That's why the College Fix does what it does, because we hope that readers might email a college president or email the boards of trustees and be like, do you realize what's going on? And can you take a stand here for common sense and for academic inquiry? If the leaders actually heard from concerned people more about what's going on in higher ed, I think they would take a stand more. We're slowly seeing that. Some donors have voiced their concern, but these colleges have such ginormous endowments that it's almost an insurmountable task to kind of turn the ship. It's like turning the Queen Mary, right? I mean, it's slow going, but we're trying.
Well, that's the thing. I think why I use the phrase Frankenstein's monster, because what you've created here is a group of kids that you're not educating. You can't educate students who believe their race or their gender or their very youth allows them to dictate to tenured faculty members who've been part of a larger ongoing academic conversation for 40 or 50 years. This is the dangerous element about this, isn't it? That it's so counter-intellectual. It's the argument that the younger you are, the more different your race, the more alternative your gender, the more absolute moral authority university professors are conferring on you. And it's beginning to swallow them up as well. How do we balance the scales in terms of experience versus radical activism in politics? I guess the question I have is, don't you need that? You need these kids to be less educated, but more angry, or you're not going to be able to overturn the core of universities like small pockets of radical faculty want.
Well, one thing I hear a lot nowadays is these young people are talking about their quote unquote lived experiences. So essentially what they've experienced, their feelings, their emotions, the little things that happen to them in their life, they argue are more important than whatever it is this professor is trying to teach or whatever it is this peer is trying to argue. So that is why they feel so indignant. They're growing up in this culture, this me generation, where they feel like their emotions, their feelings are more important than reality. And unfortunately, with helicopter parenting and the coddling of the American mind, as it's been called, these young people it's just getting worse and worse. They just, like what Michael wrote an article about the young man at Dartmouth who dared to report that a campus program hired far more women than men. And for that, he was essentially figuratively crucified just for pointing out a fact. So again, emotion is trumping logic. Emotion is trumping academic inquiry. Emotion is trumping truth. These lived experiences are more important to these young people than actually learning. And the administrators are letting it happen, and the professors, to a large extent, are letting it happen as well, and are part of the problem.
Yeah, that Dartmouth story was illustrative. This was a college program to hire tour guides, basically, to hire students to chaperone parents and kids around who are considering going to Dartmouth. And over 80% of those chosen were women. And for simply pointing this out, this young white male student was actually called, I get why you might, in a twisted way, call him a misogynist. How dare you? It should be 100% women. But he was also called homophobic and transphobic for simply pointing out that for every one male, there were 4 or 5 women hired for the position. Now, Jennifer, we've been doing this for about 3 weeks now at the College Fix with the College Roundup. You had mentioned earlier just what an impact the College Fix has already had on trying to move universities the right way when faculty and administrators pay no attention. Talk a little bit about how you think the College Roundup has gone for us and the impact it's beginning to make to help the College Fix try to right what's wrong on these campuses.
Well, we'd like to shine a light on some of the absurdities on college campuses. And what's been really neat, we started this about 6 weeks ago, and to see these young journalists, get on the air and tell their stories in front of a YouTube audience and to share what they've experienced, what they've reported on, it really gives them a powerful voice. I love our campus roundup so far. It's been such a fun addition to the College Fix repertoire to offer not just the written word, but really to show these students that their voice matters and to give them a platform that they didn't have before. So it's been exciting. It's been impactful. And I would certainly recommend our regular listeners and our viewers to go back and make sure they watch all the student interviews and the editor interviews too. We're really enjoying getting to know our audience better and to bring this new platform to life.
Yeah, I wanted to follow that up with the College Fix editors, too, because it really is a neat perspective. You guys are busy mentoring these kids. You're trying to shepherd these kids through the pitfalls, the leftist pitfalls of universities, some of the most anti-conservative places in our culture today, and give them the journalistic skills and the bravery they need to be able to report under fire that way. So we've personally heard a lot about how the College Fix editor interviews have helped change people's minds as well. So it's a wonderful collection of things that we're able to do here. We want to thank you very much for your mentorship of this program, the College Roundup, and we do encourage people to continue watching. Jennifer Cabani, editor at the College Fix. Be sure to stay up on all the latest news and information from the College Fix editors by joining us on all of our social media platforms.